work your way through the ruts. Niels Albert in the pits. And the crowd big. Here's the course for today. 3.1 kilometers around. Koksijde, of course, known for the sand dunes. A very tough course indeed. And the finish after 3.1 kilometers of racing each lap. The riders are on the start line, getting themselves ready. It's very cold today. There's Michael van Turenhout riding for the Marlux Napoleon Games team. Alongside him, a man on form right now, Lars van der Haar, the former Dutch champion. Alongside him, ever consistent Kevin Powles, riding for Marlux as well. Alongside him, Lawrence Sweek, second in Iowa so far this season. And Corne van Kessel, who rides for Telenet Fidea Lions. Van Kessel also has been on form this season. There's the World Cup leader. Mathieu van der Poel. It's not a tattoo on his arm. It is some strapping after a crash yesterday. Wout van Aert, the world champion. That bike of Van der Poel, a little bit bling. And the final rider on the front row of the grid, Tom Meyusen, who rides for the BO Bank team, has changed squads for this season. We're about to get underway. So the big question for today, how will Van der Poel's shoulder hold up? He had a big crash yesterday in the boom cross. He says he's okay. He says he does feel it in the last little bit of the track where it's very bumpy underneath the wheels. But apart from that, he had a good night's sleep. So we'll see whether he's okay. The sprint starts. Doesn't look like there's any problems with him. He's one of the first riders to go to the front here. Van der Haar sprinting on the left, Van der Poel in the middle, Van Aert into the saddle as they screech the brakes on round the right-hand turn and make their way out on the first of these 3.1 kilometer laps. Well, Van der Poel certainly, initially it looks like no problems. After yesterday, he had a very sore wrist, very sore shoulder after that crash. And Meyusen with his normal trademark good start. Wout van Aert also up there, refusing to give an inch as they go through onto the first run-up. Shouldering the bike. And this will be sore for Van der Poel. Will this start to hurt more after a few laps? But he's gone out very, very early. So far this season, he won in Iowa, he won in Waterloo, and he's looking for a hat-trick of victories in the World Cup so far. It's very comfortable at the front, onto the tarmac. Van Aert's looking easy in second place, third place Meyusen behind them. Van der Haar's not far from the front either. Turenhout is also up there. Van der Poel sprints out of that corner. You can pick out these riders from Telenet with their neon bikes. Meyusen is up there, second place, wearing number 2, sorry. Tonet wearing number 2 as a European champion. Had a great season last year. Had that big crash at the end of the season in the Worlds. Before the Worlds, sorry. The week before. When it looked like he was going to be one of the contenders. But Van der Poel leads back onto the bike immediately. Downhill. Wout van Aert. Big crowd now in Koksijde. Maybe not as big as we see on a weekend when it's on the same weekend as the Ghent 6 day. The date has moved after the weather problems of last year and the security problems of the year before. They've moved the date just that little bit, which means you don't get so many of the British fans here who would go to the Ghent 6 day and then go back tonight on the Channel Tunnel. But still a big crowd nonetheless. At the front then, Van der Poel, Van Aert, Toenaerts, Tom Meeuwsen, Corne van Kessel, Michael van Toerenhout, Laurens Sweeck, David van der Poel, Lars van der Haar, Kevin Powles are the top 10 so far. But Van der Poel is drawing away 3 riders here into a front group. So Van Aert trying to match him. But his trademark, really supremely fast start is paying dividends, although riding that little section's cost him there. Van Aert coming back at him. Toenaerts in 3rd place in the European Champions jersey, looking good so far. Well, these 3 seem to be combining well. Tom Meeuwsen trying to come back. Just leaning right over in that sandy section. Meeuwsen 3rd in the World Cup last season. Very consistent. Sort of fell out with Telenet. Now rides for the same team as Van der Poel. On to the next run-up. Fast feet needed by Mathieu van der Poel at the front. Everyone's kind of settling down. Not any major advantage yet. David van der Poel is looking okay. Do join me on Twitter today if you would like to. @AntMcCrossan is where you can join me. Don't forget to follow at UCI_cycling as well. But Van der Poel doesn't seem to be overcompensating at all for that right arm problem. But he did take a huge crash yesterday. He's lucky to be okay. Yesterday then we saw Van Aert win ahead of Sweeck and Lars van der Haar. In Zeinhoven in the sand we saw Mathieu van der Poel win ahead of Van Aert and Lars van der Haar. I was talking to Lars before the start. He said he needs to make fewer mistakes today. That's his aim. See whether he can produce a better performance than 3rd. A real tussle at the front. No one giving an inch so far. Up near the front also is Michael van Toerenhout, 4th in the World Cup last year. He's the rider in the blue and white, lying in 4th place as Van der Poel tries to kick on a little bit, trying to put Van Aert into some trouble. He's putting him under pressure, there's no doubt about that. Every now and then he's opening up just a little bit of a gap. I saw Corne van Kessel going downhill there. It's an all Belgian and Dutch top 15 riders. In fact, the top 18 riders are all Dutch and Belgian right now. The first non-Dutch or Belgian rider is 19th, Michael Boros, at this moment in the race. Simon Zana up in 25th place for Switzerland. Ian Field in a decent position so far for Great Britain, 32nd place. Over the lap, and the first lap goes through. It's a 6:57 first lap when you take away the first few meters from the starting grid. So Mathieu van der Poel leads, Wout van Aert 2nd, Toenaerts in 3rd place, Michael van Toerenhout in 4th, Corne van Kessel 5th, Laurens Sweeck in 6th, David van der Poel, Tom Meeuwsen, Lars van der Hart, Kevin Pauwels. That's the top 10 so far, but there's daylight now between Van der Poel and Wout van Aert, and then the group behind Telenet and Michael van Turenhout in 3rd and 4th. These two riders head and shoulders above the rest. Well, the crowd urging these riders to the top of the climb. Lars van der Haar, very fast feet there. Van der Poel looking very, very good. Brian Travis, you're right. New rig for Van der Poel today. He did have that camouflage bike for a little while. This one is a little bit more retro, isn't it? Just with the red, the gold front on it, a little bit of white here and there. It's very different, looks great. Rich, you're asking what American riders are in the field today. Let's just check them out for you. Jeremy Durant, who I saw just before the start, and Andrew Giuliano are the two American riders who are in the field today. And whilst Van der Poel rides, Van Aert shoulders the bike. Is it making a big difference? It's making a couple of seconds, and that's enough to put Van Aert into some sort of pressure. See here, Van Aert, both his feet out of the pedals for a second. Just look at the way Van der Poel's riding. So strong right now. There's such a lot of talk about these two riders and what happens when they decide to turn to the road, if indeed that is what they plan to do. Cyclo-cross would be certainly lost a little bit without those two at the moment. They are the entertainment. They are the ones who rip the races apart. On to the next drop-off. Van der Poel is still putting Van Aert into that little bit of hurt. Every single turn he sprints out of hard. And Van Aert's having to sprint flat out just to stay on the wheels. And Van der Poel is riding all these sections. Technically, he's so good as Van Aert takes a different line just to try and stay with him. You can see how much pressure he's under. Van der Haar moves up into 5th place now. Van der Poel onto the grass. Wout van Aert now trying to close up on the back wheel of Mathieu van der Poel. He's having to work so hard to get there, though. I almost see Van Aert thinking, I just need to throttle back a little bit and then come back at him when I feel better. Really sprinting hard up there. Tonet's 3rd place. Michael van Turenhout 4th, Lars van der Haar 5th, and Laurens Sweeck is the rider you can see in the white and red, wearing number 4. But Van der Poel has maybe a couple of seconds now on Wout van Aert. Oh, Wout's all over the place then. Snaking left and right, trying to hold that bike. Meanwhile, Van der Poel just rides away. The gap is starting to open, creaking open. It's like a little test. The big question is whether anyone's got any sort of answer in that chasing group. Van der Poel up onto the next climb, doesn't even get off. Sprints hard round the top, makes it look simple. Van Aert does the same. Bizplan, 2 American riders riding today. I just mentioned Jeremy Durham, Andrew Giuliano. A lot of sand on this course. It's built around the famous sand dunes. So tough, rutted, a little bit cold, and slightly wet sand as well from a bit of rain earlier on this morning. So it makes for extremely tough conditions. Block headwind finish, really strong, biting cold wind. There's really nothing to stop the cold wind here. The totally flat land just blows straight across. It literally rips into your bones. It's so chilly here in Koksijde today. And yet these riders are riding with short sleeves and shorts on. That's how much effort they're putting in. Coming around then to complete the lap. A faster lap by 3 seconds. And Van Aert is 7 seconds down. Behind him, Van der Haar and Laurens Sweeck. And these 2 riders have some daylight. In this group, real collection of riders. Vincent Bastians is the rider in the grey-coloured kit, if you've never seen that before. Telenet is in here. As we see Van der Poel go into the next climb. 9 laps we will have. And so far, Van der Poel has half a climb's advantage on Van Aert. Although Van Aert seems to be able to ride just a little bit further up that hill. And he has got really fast feet, hasn't he, when he goes up there. Is this where you can make a big difference? Laurens Sweeck looking strong. Such hard discipline, this. Van der Haar jumps straight back onto that neon trek. This is the group of riders who are so tightly knitted, aren't they? All together, Meeuwsen there in the middle, surrounded by Telenet Fidea Lions. Van der Poel almost, it does, that tape that he's got on that shoulder just looks like an overnight big tattoo. There's the gap between these 2 talented young riders. Van Aert's won this race before, 2014. Van der Poel's never won it. Twice third, 2015, 2014. Van Aert was second the last time we had it, back in 2015. You may remember that amazing day of Sven Nys taking his 50th win. Tailwind section now. Van der Poel looks really concentrated. The biting wind doesn't seem to be having any ill effect at all on Mathieu van der Poel. Van Aert looks to be under pressure, doesn't he? Look at that. Just see the mouth is open. Laurens Sweeck is closing up now on Wout van Aert, and Van der Haar is also not giving in, but he's feeling the pressure too. Van der Poel has been certainly the best rider so far this season. He won Iowa, he won Waterloo, he won Zonhoven Cross, the Super Prestige. He was heading towards a victory yesterday when he crashed. Down the hill, turns right, he's starting to open up a big, big gap now. Van Aert hauling his way to the top, using the fencing just to give him a little bit more of a momentum that he needs. And Laurens Sweeck can sense a podium position here. Van Aert with that little bunny hop. Laurens Sweeck just a couple of seconds behind now. Now, if he catches Van Aert, can they work together to bring Van der Poel back? 16 seconds is now the lead. And before, when you had Van Aert just coming onto this climb just behind Van der Poel, he's no longer doing that. Van der Haar can also sense another podium finish. I asked him earlier, why are you going so well this season? Is it different training, different approach? What is it? He said, I haven't done anything different. Just having a good season so far. Last year, of course, Van Aert dominated the beginning of the season. Van der Poel won Valkenburg, he won Zeven, he won Namur. And then Van Aert started to turn the pressure back on. He won Zolder, he won Fuji. Van der Aert won in Hoogerheide, and then Van Aert won the World Championships, of course. So it just kind of ebbed and flowed between Van der Poel and Van Aert. And it looks like it's doing the same at the beginning of the season, although this time it's Van der Poel and not Van Aert who's dominating proceedings. Van Aert slowly but surely being caught by Laurens Sweeck. Van der Poel's looking just supreme right now. He's not making any mistakes. He's riding with real confidence and panache. But Sweeck catches the world champion. Laurens Sweeck in a great position now to take a podium. And Van der Haar. Being caught now by David Van der Poel. Oh no, sorry, that was a different shot. Apologies for that. Van Aert, Sweeck and Van der Haar. This is the leader then, coming round again. Looks so fast. Lap 4 of 9. On to now Mathieu Van der Poel. 6:50 that time, another 4 seconds faster. Here we go with Van Aert. Behind him is Sweeck and Van der Haar. 20 seconds now is the advantage for Van der Poel. The next group of riders coming across the line now. This is the group of David Van der Poel and Quinten Hermans. David Van der Poel now in 6th place. That's one of his top performances. And also up here in the top places, Michael van Turenhout, Toon Aerts, Corne van Kessel, Vincent Bastins. A bit of shoe adjustment for Mathieu Van der Poel, just doing them up. Into the drop-off. And Wout van Aert's got some company, so it might be motivating him just a little bit more. Thank you very much for joining me on Twitter at @McCrossan and at UCI_cycling is where you can join us today. Ask your questions, give us your thoughts and predictions for the World Cup this season. What's going to happen? Are we going to see Van der Poel dominate the entire season? Be hard for him to do that. See just how strong those legs are when they're going across the sand. Thanks, Coffee Corrupts, interesting name. That Van der Poel and Van der Haar had knee surgery last season. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you very much for the little reminder. Van Aert also had his injury problems last season too. It's hard, isn't it, not to have an injury when you're riding this style of racing where you're jumping on and off the bike. You're riding different surfaces every turn. You know, you go from sand right now to tarmac to grass to a little bit of mud. It's really very, very demanding on the body. But Mathieu van der Poel is making this look pretty simple right now. Ride flat out through every corner. Sprint hard when you come out of the turns and run quick. His average speed, just to give you an idea, is nearly 27 kilometers an hour. Lars van der Haar's riding at about 26.5, 26.48 to Van der Poel's 26.74. So we're only talking about 0.2 of a kilometre an hour, but that's the difference. On to the next climb. David van der Poel there, riding alongside Quinten Hermans. No significant concerted chase is going on as Van der Poel opens up his lead now to 27 seconds. Van Aert trying to open up a little bit of a gap on the other two riders now. He sometimes does this where he's under massive pressure. And we've seen him come back at Van der Poel before in previous races. Neil Rogers, thanks for your message. And thanks for the question. We need Stato for this. Has any rider ever won every race of a UCI World Cup series in a season? No. I'm pretty certain not. Not since it was formed. If we go back even and look over the last couple of years, it's been a little bit of a mix all the time between principally Van Aert and Van der Poel. We've always had someone thrown in there. We think this season before we had even Sven Nys back winning a round as well. James Van Aert makes little mistakes all the time, and he did last season as well. He does, but he's always on the limit, Van Aert. He seems to push it right to the absolute nth degree, and he makes tiny little mistakes. But Van der Poel he tends not to make little mistakes. He's either supreme and riding like this, or he makes a massive mistake, or he has a mechanical. Let's not wish anything on him as he goes into the aero tuck, because it's a block headwind now, and crosses the line to complete lap number 4 of 9. Average speed 26.5 kilometers an hour. That was a 6:53 lap, so that's 3 seconds slower than that lap before, but it's still his second fastest lap of the race so far. Van der Poel continuing. Laurens Sweeck leads across the line, and they're now 30 seconds behind, so they've lost another 10 seconds on that lap to the fast-moving Mathieu van der Poel. Koksijde's had some big winners. Of course, Sven Nys, probably the most famous. Sven is actually here. He's been doing lots of interviews, and he was with Tom Pidcock when Pidcock won the under-23 race earlier on. Sven Nys was with him at the podium. As we see the next group of riders crossing the line. So the last few winners: Sven Nys in 2015, Wout van Aert 14, Niels Albert in 13, Sven Nys in 12 and 11, Albert in 10, Zdeněk Stybar in 2009, and Vervecken in 2008 are the previous winners, back as far as 2008 is concerned. Just give you some updates on some other riders. We'll try and update some of the other countries for you. First Czech rider is 23rd, Michael Boros. The first Frenchman, 25th, Fabien Canel. Then we've got Steve Chanel in 26th place for France. Simon Zana in 29th place for Switzerland. First Spanish rider, Felipe Orts, 31st. Ian Field, 33rd for Great Britain. Yoli Bertolini, 34th place. First American rider, 45th, Jeremy Durrant. First Irishman, Glenn Kinning, who's in 47th place at this moment in time. That gives you an update on some of the other riders. Van Aert struggling a little now. Just not smooth today. He won yesterday in the Boom Cross, beating Sweeck and Van der Aert, so it's the same three there, but Van der Poel was with them and then had his big crash. Van der Aert senses the chance to get rid of Van Aert now, so he puts on the tempo. Sweeck goes with him. Van Aert, to me, is right on the absolute limit. Having to be a little bit careful to stay away from the feet of the crowd barriers there. And Van Aert has dropped away a little bit on that little section. Lawrence van Rooyen, thank you very much. I'm pretty certain there's been no one who's won ever all the rounds. 99% certain it's never happened. Van der Poel riding in this pure white kit, and it doesn't even look like, if most of us went out in pure white kit like that, number one, it wouldn't look great, but number two, we'd be covered in absolute rubbish by now, and at this moment he'd be pretty good for a laundry advert. He's still pure white, riding along. Doesn't look touched by anything right now. Van der Poel looking easy. Got to be careful, though, on that rut. If you take the wrong line there, you can end up right in the fence. It's happened on many occasions before. Onto the run-up for Van der Haar, sitting second. Can he put himself on the podium in this race? Van der Haar hasn't finished on the podium of Koksijde before. Well, so far, what he said to me before the start is going okay so far, but he wanted to make fewer mistakes than yesterday. Wout van Aert trying to recover and stay with the group of riders in front of him. Mathieu van der Poel bouncing through there. He said this really hurts that shoulder when he goes into the ruts. 34 seconds is now his lead.
Right now, 34 seconds.
Van der Haar up into the next climb. Van der Haar's trying to put the pressure on a little bit now as he makes his way through that rutted section, takes it a little bit wide on that bottom right-hand turn. Nicholas Van Looy, thank you very much for just confirming that I was thinking it would never happen. 8 out of 10 races by Sven Nys. End of lap number 5. 6:51 that time. 2 seconds faster than the previous lap. His second fastest lap so far, Mathieu van der Poel. So he is not slowing down. He's staying very, very consistent. He's gone 6:57, 6:54, 6:50, 6:53, 6:51. Laurens Sweeck looks around, he wants a little bit of help, and you can tell no one wants to go to the front here. It's a full block, freezing cold headwind. That's why they're messing around. 38 seconds, they lose another 8. They lost 10 seconds the previous lap, another 8 that time. So 38 seconds between Mathieu van der Poel and the group of 3 behind. Laurens Sweeck, Lars van der Haar, Wout van Aert. Thank you to all of you for your messages on Twitter. Very much appreciated that we can get the quick confirmation of some of the questions that you raise. It's always good to get a little bit of interaction to make sure we know. If you've just joined us now, this is your lone leader, Mathieu van der Poel, in round 3 of the Telenet UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup. He's won the first 2 rounds. But of course, the weather conditions in Iowa and Waterloo significantly different to how the weather is today. We're back to Belgian European cyclocross weather right on the coast here in Koksijde, an area famous for the Second World War beach landings, not too far from here. The battle is certainly on here, but the battle is more for second and third place as Wout van Aert puts the screw on Lars van der Haar now and goes clear, so he's let himself recover. He's really good at this. When he's under massive pressure, somehow he's able to just calm himself down and then go back forward again. We've seen it before. Don't take it that this race is completely over. Wout van Aert starting to make a move. It's almost like sometimes Wout van Aert will start a race and he'll be almost blocked. Just the body doesn't feel right. And then once he's had a little bit of racing, 30 minutes or so, he suddenly wakes up and feels better. Now, I'm not saying he can come all the way back to the front, but he'll give it a good go. He now looks like he's riding with some purpose as opposed to suffering. And Van der Haar now is the rider who's suffering. Van der Poel onto the climb. Makes short work of that. That was a very impressive ride round there. The camera just trying to find him. There is Wout van Aert diving his way down, getting rid of Laurens Sweeck now. There's David van der Poel, the brother of Mathieu, in the red and white. Number 12 there, making his way through. One of the different kits, Vincent Bastians, Belgian rider. Lars van der Haar seems to be dropping away a little. Well, we've missed this cross last season. It's always entertaining. Laurens Sweeck closing in again on Wout van Aert. It's so different to the other crosses that we have. This season, we'll go from here to Boggensee in Denmark, then we'll go to Zeven in Germany, then Namur in Belgium, Zolder on Boxing Day, Nome in France, then Koksijde, and then we go to the World Championships at the end of that. Mathieu van der Poel, the lone leader. Let's see what his lap time is this time. Wout van Aert seeing whether he can close this gap at all, give himself a little bit of confidence. To me, the gap is closing a little. Has Van Aert left this too late? There goes Lars van der Haar, sprinting hard. Is Van der Poel starting to suffer? We'll soon find out at the end of this lap. Has he cracked a little bit? To me, this gap is closing, and it's closing maybe 9 or 10 seconds on this lap. This is the next group of riders behind. Thanks for all your messages. Ian Field is now 36th. Italian riders, Nicolas Samparassi 42nd and Lorenzo 44th. Jeremy Durran is running 45th. Glenn Kinning of Ireland 47th in answer to Paul Norton's question. But we see Mathieu van der Poel come round to complete lap number 6. Well, he doesn't look like he's cracked. He seems to be still full of running. As we see him come round again to complete this lap, we'll get an idea of the lap time. Is he suffering? 6:56, 5 seconds slower that time. Wout van Aert almost at the end of the lap. Is Wout van Aert doing anything about closing the lead of Mathieu van der Poel? The answer is that he is. He's taken 10 seconds out of him. Back to 30 seconds now, the advantage. The riders are suffering in this headwind. Van der Haar really into an aero tuck to try and keep the pressure on those pedals. So a 6:56 lap, 5 seconds slower. And 30 seconds is now the lead. Eric W. does cyclocross get dominated by 1 or 2 riders? I think you could say that Van Aert and Van der Poel are the dominant forces in world-level cyclocross right now. No different to the era of Sven Nys. So yeah, it definitely gets dominated. But watch out for Tom Pidcock, the British rider, who is working his way through the under-23 ranks now. Earlier on today, he rode from the 3rd row of the grid in a world-level under-23 race, having just turned from being a junior, rode through the entire field, attacked them all and won on his own. Very similar to Van Aert and Van der Poel in terms of his dominance at that level. So 3 more laps to go, and we'll find out whether Van der Poel can hold on. Van Aert's got to close another 10 seconds this time to make it possible. Don't forget, follow at UCI_cycling on Twitter, or at Ant McCrossan is where you can send me your questions, like some of you have done already. Brad Sona, nice to hear from you. Has there been a Chinese cyclocross pro? I don't think there has. There's been Japanese. We've had the Japanese ride the World Cups. We need a Chinese rider to ride the World Cups at some point. I'm sure it will happen. Lars van der Haar working his way through these ruts, having to get off the bike again. So desperately wants to get on the podium here. Van der Haar has not finished on the podium in this race. Lawrence Week still looks full of fight. Mathieu van der Poel onto the next descent. Van der Haar looks to have recovered a little bit now as he sprints along this single track section. Just to have some momentum going. Looks like this gap's going back out again. So as Van der Poel played the game, he's let Van Aert attack and come back, and now he's accelerating hard. See the trees moving in the background. Very hard conditions. So maybe Van der Poel just took an easy lap, ratcheted it back 5 seconds. His dad, Adrie van der Poel, is always in the pits looking after him. There's not so much you can do, though, when they're out there. You just have to just give little bits of advice. Wout van Aert generally has Niels Albert in his pits. That last lap was one of the slowest laps that we've seen. The second slowest lap of Mathieu van der Poel in this entire race. His slowest lap was his first lap of 6:57. The lap we just saw was a 6:56. Van der Poel gasping in that breath. And they've covered now 20.5 kilometres of racing. Van Aert is 280 odd metres behind. Just having to left and right and slither a little bit. Use the knees just to right himself. Lars van der Haar just left and right. Again, kicks the back wheel out. Jeremy Pomeroy, thanks for your message and thanks for watching. Now these two riders are riding 5th place. Dan Soot, the rider at the front for Telenet Fidea, and David van der Poel, brother of Matthew, in 6th place. Dan Soot is going well so far this season. He finished 3rd in Waterloo. So he's already got some high up points from the World Cup. He's the rider we're looking at there on the front with a neon yellow bike. Coming round to complete lap number 7 for Mathieu van der Poel, and he now looks a lot quicker than he did last lap. He's just produced his fastest lap of the race so far, a 6:47. That's a very fast lap by Mathieu van der Poel. So he let Wout van Aert come back by 10 seconds, and then he's cracked him by putting in the fastest lap he's put in so far. Wout van Aert comes round the corner. He's got daylight. The average speed is nearly 27 kilometers an hour on this course, which, considering how sandy it is stunning. So now we're back at 38 seconds. The gap has gone back to what it was. Laurens Sweeck out the saddle, keeping the pressure on. So the fastest lap we've seen, 6:47 by Wout van Aert. By Mathieu van der Poel, 6:47. That's an average speed of 26.93 kilometers an hour. So his lap times 6:57, 54, 50, 53, 51, 56, and then slams them all with a 6:47. 39 seconds to Van Aert, 52 to Sweeck, 1:02 to Van der Haar is the time gaps now. For a moment, it looked like the race wasn't over. Now it's looking like the race is probably over. Crossing the line, Kevin Powell stretching his back. Just to give you some of the fastest lap times. Fastest lap of Mathieu van der Poel is a 6:47.7. Fastest lap of Wout van Aert is 6:48.0, which was that lap he came back. Now he's making mistakes though. Laurens Sweeck, 6:54 is his fastest lap. Lars van der Haar's fastest lap is 6:57.7. Oops. Oh no, problems here. A big problem here for Wout van Aert. Now what's happened? I'm just having a look at the bike. Is it a mechanical? Is he okay? The gears, are they changing? No. Oh, he's caught the rear mech is all caught up. Wout van Aert in all sorts of problems here. Now he rights it, doesn't panic. Sorts it out. The rear mech, he was lucky he didn't snap the gear hanger off then. He realised what was going on and got off the bike rather than kicking it over. Otherwise, he'd have been left on the other side of the circuit with the mechanical. Wout van Aert and Sweeck locked together. Sweeck's fastest lap is 6:54. Lars van der Haar is 6:54. Dan Soot 6:55.2. David van der Poel 6:57.8 is his fastest lap. And there's riders like Telenet who have ridden a fastest lap of 7:02.3. Meanwhile, at the front, Van der Poel. Ted Burns asking about Van der Poel's crash yesterday. He was leading the boom cross yesterday. He had a big crash and hurt his right shoulder and his right wrist. But it's taped up now. Had a good night's sleep, feels okay, and as you can see, it's not hurting him. Watching Laurens Sweeck now, who looks like those shoulders are going all over the place. Thanks for all your messages at Ant McCrossan, Paul and the St Anne's crew. Hope you're enjoying the racing as we see Van Aert go over the top of the climb. Big run up. Sweeck looks like he's under pressure now. Van der Haar is only about 6 seconds behind, so Sweeck is going to have to be a little bit careful here not to lose his third place. And a podium position in the World Cup is great for the morale. Sweeck took podium place last year in Zolder, you may remember. And he also took podium places in Vegas and in Iowa. Van Aert has got another problem. Whoops. Van Aert is going to have to change bikes. I don't know if he's allowed to do this. And he's gone back. He has got a big problem. He is allowed to do it. Shakes his head. This has cost him the places. He thought the bike was okay, but it wasn't. So he's onto his spare machine now. I haven't seen that happen in a cyclocross for years. Well, Van Aert turns around, goes back. You have to enter the pits where the yellow flag is on the end of the pit lane. And Van Aert had to go all the way back. You can't do anything about it. You can't have the bike handed across the barriers or anything like that to you. And now Van der Poel completes lap number 8. 1 lap of racing to go. Average speed 26.5. That was a 7-minute lap, actually. That's his slowest lap of the race. And it doesn't really matter, does it? Because Van Aert's had all sorts of trials and tribulations in this lap. Here's what happened. He looks down. He realises that he's got a mechanical. In fact, I think he might have a flat back tyre. It looks like a flat back tyre. Yeah. Commissaire in the background, whistling away. Van Aert, big deep breath, chucks the bike and off he goes. Here's Van der Haar and Laurens Sweeck. Now they're looking at podium places. The advantage that time, 1:04. It's gone now as far as the others are concerned. It's gone from 39 seconds to 1:04 for Van der Poel. Wout van Aert trying to get back now to get on the podium. Sweeck and Van der Haar riding well, but I think they are both suffering now. Everyone looking around at each other on the headwind section. On to the run-up. Confirmation I've just had from Christelle, who looks after the cyclocross coordination here, that his bike change was okay. As long as he went into the pit lane by the yellow flag, all is okay. So Van der Poel, absolutely dominant from the start of this race. As we see Van Aert trying desperately to get back on terms with Van der Haar and Zwick and take second place if he possibly can. Van der Poel concentrating hard. Van Aert the winner of last year's World Championships, the winner of the World Cup. This year, so far, is not going his way. It is all going the way of Van der Poel, who's already won the first 2 rounds. And if all goes well in the next few meters, then he'll win round number 3. Van Aert's just had one of those days where things go wrong. This course has really taken its toll on everybody. That last lap has hurt everyone's legs considerably. And Lars van der Haar now attacks Laurens Zwick. And Van Aert is closing in on Laurens Zwick. Guda, thanks for your message about Matthew's bike. Yeah, it does match the leader's jersey with the red, the white, and a little bit of gold on it as well, just for good measure. Roger Hitchner asking what languages are the commentators speaking in the background. Well, they're speaking English and they're speaking Flemish at this moment. Well, Wout van Aert using that fencing to very good effect. Right, there's our leader. Let's concentrate on him as he kicks his way through the sand. Laurens Zwick potentially is about to lose a podium the way he's riding. He looks like he is really, really suffering now. Van der Haar, meanwhile, is heading towards a second place here in Koksijde. If it continues like this, not too many stretches of sand left. Thank you to all of you for your messages today. Thanks for keeping us company. Don't forget to follow at UCI_cycling and at Ant McCrossan if you want to ask any more questions. We are near the end of this race here in Koksijde, the 3rd round of the Telenet UCI World Cup Cyclo-cross. And Mathieu van der Poel is heading towards his hat-trick this season so far. Wout van Aert closing in on Lars van der Haar. Laurens Zwick is the rider in 4th place who may well miss out on the podium. Considering how well Wout van Aert is going now, without all the mechanicals and the problems, he may well have been up there, but just not his day. Sometimes, as many riders say, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Today, Wout van Aert is the nail, unfortunately. But things will turn around. On to the next climb, and Lars van der Haar climbs that really nicely. Van Aert looks so controlled now. Almost like the pressure is off because he knows he can't win, but he can get on the podium. Fantastic riding by these riders. But here he is. It's going to be 3 rounds out of 3. Mathieu van der Poel has dominated here in Koksijde. He's going to win the Koksijde Cyclo-cross. He wins in 1 hour, 2 minutes, 41 seconds. His last lap, 7:15. A slow lap, doesn't matter. Mathieu van der Poel takes the victory. Van der Haar then is going to try and take the podium. Van der Haar has this final little bit of single track, turns right onto the tarmac, looks around, he's going to take second. A great performance by Lars van der Haar for the Telenet UCI Alliance. He takes second, he'll be pleased with that. Another podium pace. And behind him is Wout van Aert in third place. The world champion, after everything that happened today, still finishes in third place. Laurens Sweeck is going to come in now. Fourth place for him today. Been a bit of a yo-yo day for him, up and down the different places, but fourth place for him. And a big sprint then for the fifth place. And it looks like could be David van der Poel is going to take fifth. Dan Soot is going to take sixth. Sean Mooney's telling me that Van der Poel's bike has an American flag on it after the first 2 rounds. Normally Sean Matthew's bike is one of the bikes I go and have a close look at, but today I didn't get a chance. He was riding it a lot. I saw him riding around on it before the start, but I didn't get a chance to go and look and see how different it was, because he normally has a different paint job on different bikes that he's got, the camouflage bikes of last year. Coming in now, Vincent Bastians. He completes the course in 9th place. 10th place for Jens Adams. He crosses the line in 10th. Tonerts is going to be 11th.
The 11th rider at the finish line.
And just to give you an idea of where riders are running, Ian Field is riding 31st for Great Britain, and also Severin Segesser is 40th for Switzerland. Jeremy Durin and Andrew Giuliano are running 45th and 46th for the United States of America. Glenn Kinning is running 47th for Ireland, and Takunuchi Yu of Japan is 48th at the moment. There is Van der Poel. Taking his third victory in the World Cup. Lars van der Haar congratulates him.
For this third round of the Telenet UCI World Cup, won by Mathieu van der Poel, second place, Lars van der Haar, third, Wout van Aert, fourth.
Here's the rundown then of the riders finishing. Corne van Kessel 14th today. All these points count. Val Slaben 15th. Well, Slaben has finished third in this race before, back in 2013 behind Niels Albert and Francis Moret. Not a good day for Tom Meusen. He's about to come in now in 20th place. So just to let you know, just to confirm about Van Aert's bike change, it was absolutely okay to do what he did. You're allowed in the rules to ride backwards as long as you enter where that flag is and you haven't passed the flag at the other end of the pits. There's confirmation of the results. Van der Poel wins ahead of Van der Haar, with Wout van Aert in third, and the rundown of the top 10. There's the rundown of the top 20. If he had gone past the second flag, then he wouldn't have been allowed to do what he did. And thankfully, I've got that straight from a commissaire who's in the know. Three wins for 3 rounds of the Telenet World Cup. Here's the standings after 3 rounds. Well, he can't be overtaken with the 3 wins. Van der Poel at the top of the table with 240. Sweek's good so far in second place with 160, and Van der Haar consistent with third place. And there's the rundown of the top 10. Here's the riders who are in the top 20. Still dominated by the Belgian riders, which is expected, of course. We're waiting then for the podium presentation. Here's the highlights of today's race. Fast start. A really hard start with that headwind, but straight from the off it was Van der Poel who dominated the race. The only person who was really able to go with him was Wout van Aert. But it wasn't long until Van Aert was under pressure, under the attack of Mathieu van der Poel. And he dropped back to the group of Laurens Sweeck and Lars van der Haar. And so it remained like this the entire race. Van der Poel at the front, and then a different combination all the time of Van Aert or van der Haar or Sweeck riding in the second place position. Van Aert was good until this happened. He had a mechanical, and then he had another one. The gears getting completely wrapped up. He was very, very lucky not to snap the rear derailleur then. And then this happened. Pretty certain he had a rear wheel puncture. It looks that way to me. Bike change for Van Aert, shakes his head. And Van Aert worked his way back through the field. Van der Poel crossing the line. Van der Haar in second. And Wout van Aert makes it onto the podium. Well, let's hear now from the winner of today's race with his third win in the World Cup this season, Mathieu van der Poel.
Yeah, Mathieu van der Poel, many congratulations with a tremendous victory. What a revenge for all that bad luck yesterday.
Yeah, it was something I was looking forward to. Next year, previous year, the race was cancelled, and I really like sand courses, so it was so much fun to ride out here and take the win today.
Yeah, what a great solo.
Yeah, it was. I started ahead of the bunch, and I know it was the best way to be at the front because you can do your own thing and ride your own lines, but it's also a little bit difficult because you're always getting in the sand first and a lot of the traces are gone then, and yeah, sometimes that's hard, but I enjoyed riding here.
Je leek niet alleen op één been te winnen, maar ook op één arm.
Mijn schouder viel op zich nog wel mee tijdens de wedstrijd. Het was vooral mijn rug waar ik wel wat last van had, maar ja, de benen waren meer dan oké. En ik denk in zo'n zandwedstrijd als vandaag is het gewoon heel belangrijk om die zandstroken goed door te komen en dat lukte.
Ja, dan op het einde dat tikje tegen de fiets.
Ja, ik had een speciaal fiets voor vandaag. Christophe had die klaargemaakt, dus dat is zoiets wat ik heel leuk vind en ik vond het wel geslaagd.
Ja, die wereldbeker kan jou eigenlijk niet meer ontsnappen. Hè? 3 op 3, als je ziet hoeveel voorsprong je hebt op de tweede, dat is gigantisch.
Ik heb het klassement zelf nog niet gezien, maar ik heb natuurlijk in Amerika een beetje geluk tussen aanhalingstekens gehad. Dat de plaatsen heel veel verschollen en daar heb ik wel een mooie voorsprong kunnen uitbouwen. Maar ik kan nog niet zeggen dat die binnen is, maar ik hoop als ik van pech gespaard blijf dat ik de wereldbeker eens voor de eerste keer kan winnen bij de elite.
Dat zou mooi zijn. Veel succes nog, dankjewel Mathieu van der Poel.
Mathieu van der Poel, the winner here in Koksijde.
Oké, vertrek.
And now we head towards the podium. And we wait the riders appearing on the podium now.
Okay, you will enter all together, you stand in front of the stairs, and then when Nico, the monitor, the speaker, announce your name and your position, you go to the stairs. And then you stay all together on the
Getting their last little bit of instructions.
And the national anthem, and that's it. Okay?
Okay, thank you. So is it in front?
Can go, yeah.
Op een derde plek eindigt in de wedstrijd. Dames en heren, laat u horen voor de regerend wereldkampioen Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert gaat uiteraard gefeliciteerd worden met zijn behaalde derde plek. Dat gebeurt door de voorzitter van het
Wout van Aert, third place today.
de koninklijke wielerclub de Verenigde Vrienden, de heer Jan Gunnamoens.
His first podium of this World Cup campaign, of course.
The guy who has finished third today in this Telenet UCI World Cup race of Koksijde. Let you hear for Wout van Aert! Ladies and gentlemen, in second place from the Netherlands, vandaag tweede in de duinen van Koksijde. Uit Nederland, uw applaus voor Lars van der Haar!
Lars van der Haar, persistent all the way through. He takes second.
Op een leuk presentje in de korting is de man die dat mag uitreiken. En de kus en bloemen zijn er uiteraard nog bij. Kisses, flowers, and your applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the second of today, Lars van der Haar. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of today. De winnaar van vandaag, van start tot finish uit Orlando.
And the winner of today's race, Mathieu van der Poel.
Winnaar van de dames en Cyclo-cross 2017 winnaar van de derde wedstrijd Telenet voor de Telenet UCI World Cup. De overwinningstrofee wordt dan overhandigd door de heer Dirk David namens de gemeente Koksijde. We weten dat januari ook organisatoren van de Belgische kampioenschappen veldrijden. De winnaar vandaag, dames en heren, in Koksijde, Mathieu van der Poel.
Van der Poel takes today's
I
win.
invite our UCI representative, Mr. Peter van den Apele, Head of Off-Road Racing, Deputy Sports Director, for presenting the leading jersey in the overall ranking after today in the Telenet UCI World Cup overhandiging door de heer Peter van den Apele aan de leider na vandaag in het algemene klassement van de Telenet World Cup veldrijden. Nogmaals graag uw applaus voor de man in kwestie, Mathieu van der Poel.
Van der Poel remains as the leader of the World Cup, pulls the jersey on again. And now the national anthem. There's our podium today. Wout van Aert, Lars van der Haar, Mathieu van der Poel. The next round of the World Cup is in Koksijde in Denmark. Great to have a round in Denmark this year. Before we move back to Germany and Belgium and France and finish off in the Netherlands.
In de komende weken. En vergeet ook niet de weekenden van 13 en 14 januari 2018.
Maud Captynes wins the women's race. Mathieu van der Poel wins the men's race. Koksijde again hosts another fantastic cyclocross. Everyone begins to make their way home. Thank you very much to all of you for watching. Thanks for all your messages. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Goodbye for now.
De